We are back on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati. Lindsay Patterson, Mike Santagata. Mike, it is Thursday. How you feeling?
I'm a little bit sick. I took care of my fiance all last weekend, and she was sick. And then I think on Tuesday I was like, I'm not feeling great. Like I feel a little bit of something. Yesterday, the worst. Today, better. Not COVID. I still have to take, my rapid test was still good. I was happy. And then I was like, oh crap, no, I have to take this COVID test. And I think my own personal torture would be if somebody made me do the COVID test for more than, already it's terrible. What if somebody that's like was like to get answers out of you because you knew something like Batman? He'd get all the answers if he just had me just for like a full 45 seconds try to swab that thing around in my nose. I'm not doing it. I'm done. I don't know how long I would make it. 2 minutes?
You are preaching to the gospel. Our producer, Spencer, says, what if somebody made you do a COVID test and you had to watch the Bengals offense from the Tennessee Titans game?
I've already watched it like 3 times. I've watched it 3 times. I'm not worried about watching the Bengals offense. I would much rather do that 5 more times than take another COVID test.
No, don't say that. Do not say that. You're not trying to jinx us right now. We do not want to see a repeat of that offense. And I'm glad, hopefully you get to feeling better. We'll move on. Because I always say we are recording this on a Thursday, but I always say the next week is that Wednesday. That's when you officially move on. Players are back to practice. You start to focus on.
My article ends the week,
Your article ends the week.
They come out Wednesday morning. 100. That's it. We read that and we're done. We're moving forward.
We move forward. You had a couple days. Mondays are pretty miserable after a loss. Tuesdays, there's an off day, not a whole lot of news going on. Wednesdays, Thursdays, you move on. The Bengals have been at practice the last 2 days. I want to get to the Joe Burrow update because I feel like we always need to give the Joe Burrow update. Look, am I trying to find some optimism with this team right now when it comes to absolutely anything with this offense and Joe Burrow? Yes, I am. Joe Burrow, not listed on the injury report. Joe Burrow's not listed on the injury report. You were going to be listed on it if you were getting treatment for an injury. Joe's didn't get treatment for the injury on Wednesday. Didn't get treatment for the injury on Thursday. Full participant. You really can't tell much because it's only open to the media for the first 15, 20, 30 minutes. Nothing really major happens. A lot of stretching, some drills, but nothing too crazy because NFL practices during the week, they're not like training camp. Joe says he is optimistic with how his calf feels. Pretty much the first time since after an NFL game. I feel like that's encouraging. You want to see more out of Joe, physically, mentally, throws. And he had even said to the media, he doesn't think that the throws have anything to do with his calf injury or anything like that. But I felt a little optimistic hearing from Joe Burrow. What did you take from any updates this week when it comes to the quarterback?
Absolutely nothing. I'm sorry. I am not optimistic about it. He's saying it's not affecting his throws. I have eyes. Mm-hmm. He's an accurate dude. Like he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. What I'm watching now is not that. Like I think they're kind of doing this as in like, like this isn't an excuse, no excuses. We need to be better type thing. And that's fine. But I am able to see that he is not playing like he normally does. And I think it's more than just the pocket movement. I feel like we've done it every week. It was preseason, like week 3, that they were like, oh, there's Joe Burrow throwing 50-yard passes. Must not be that hurt. I'm done taking all that. I'm done being excited about the improvement. I'm glad he's healthier than he was the week before. I think that's what I can just say is that with no setback, he's healthier than he was the past 2 weeks. But I don't even know if he's going to be as healthy as he was in week 2, and he wasn't fully healthy in week 2. So where do we go? I mean, that's where I am on it. I don't know. It just feels like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's just playing that bad. But I just feel like I have eyeballs and I can see that the throws are not being made accurately. And it looks like a struggle for him to drive anything or push it down the field. I feel like that's mostly because of the calf. But at the end of the day, maybe it is just him in a real bad funk.
I hope we can take the clip that you just said for like 15 seconds and then see a little bit of the old Joe Burrow on Sunday and just use that clip audio underneath it while Joe is.
No, it could happen. It could happen. But I'm just not going to take him saying like, I feel great. And like, look at Joe Burrow throw the ball. It's like, yeah, sure. I've seen this the past 4 weeks. I have been sold that he is getting better every single week. And then I turn my television on Sunday. I get excited, and then I watch this team do unspeakable things on offense for probably about 20 minutes because they can't hold on to the ball and they just go 3 and out, and the defense is on the field. I'm not going to believe it till I see it. If he's out there, and I think it's certainly possible he plays at the best we've seen him so far this year, but until I see that, I'm going to just be a little bit like, yeah, I don't know if he's going to be that great this week because it could still be an injury thing. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not dealing with him personally.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think we have to see the old Joe Burrow before we believe it. But hopefully physically he is feeling better. Like I said, I feel like it's a little encouraging when he's not listed on the injury report anymore, even though he was a full participant for the last few weeks dealing with it. But hopefully it's only getting better for Joe Burrow. He was asked, and I always kind of find this question a little silly. Not because the media asked that. I'm not against, I love the media members, but when is this a must win? I feel like every NFL player feels like every week is a must win game. The Bengals are in a situation where they would fall into that must win this football game to stay in it for your division, for the playoffs, for a positive outlook on the season. When you look at who's on the back half of the schedule after the bye, yes, I would feel like this is a must win. Joe Burrow, as soon as the reporter was getting that question out, he said yes. He didn't even think about it. He knew that this is intense. You need to get the win, you need to turn things around. And what do you take by the must win talk?
I think the Bengals, at least at this point, know that these games have become more important, that they've used up some of the grace period that they can have to lose games. I basically take it as every NFL player is going to say a game's a must-win game every single week, and until they're out of the playoffs. And then even then, they're extreme competitors, and they'll probably convince themselves that, yeah, we can't make the playoffs, but I still want to beat the Browns, or like I still want to beat the Steelers, or I want to beat, even if it was the Cardinals, I want to go beat the Cardinals. Like maybe they know somebody on that team. They're like, I don't want that guy making fun of me. It's the same. Look, when I play video games with my friend, like there's no stakes, but if I lose, I'm going to hear about it. So, I got to win. They're going to say every game's a must-win game, but how quick the answer came, and I think he knows more than just like the standard it's a must-win game, that there is more importance. Even though this is an out-of-conference game, there's more importance on this game than there typically is because of how far back they could fall in the division and the playoffs in general.
Yeah, 100%. And looking ahead to this game, you're facing the Arizona Cardinals, which I think a lot of people would be surprised with how the Arizona Cardinals are playing. I know you could compare they have the same record, but they beat a really good Dallas Cowboys team. Early on, they were in it with the 49ers, and they're scrappy and tough, and they can run the ball, and they have a mobile quarterback who's doing a pretty good job filling in for Kyler Murray. When you think about some of the backup players who might have to step up for the Cincinnati Bengals team, I know Cam Taylor-Britt was back at practice today on a limited basis, but he's still in concussion protocol. So that doesn't guarantee that Cam is going to be ready on Sunday. If he isn't, they'll probably turn to DJ Turner in the secondary room, and then Tee Higgins could be out, meaning Yoshi could be up for his career game in Arizona. And you look at that wide receiver room, and it feels like they haven't been able to air it out and get it to the wide receivers. They can't run the ball. Nothing's really working with this offense. We'll start with the offense right now. What do you think about this matchup offensively without Tee Higgins against this Cardinals defense?
Assuming Tee Higgins is out, I mean, I don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been good with him, and there's no way you could sell me that this offense is suddenly better with either Trent Irwin or Andre Iosivas. Now, maybe Joe Burrow's better. Maybe the play calls are better. But I don't think in general that on paper I'm going to feel like, there's just some things that Trent Irwin does better than Tee Higgins. I don't think so. I don't think, or Iosivas, because I know you mentioned Iosivas, but like, who do you expect to play more snaps with him and Irwin? Because I think it's Irwin for me.
Trent Irwin.
Yeah. Like there'd be an increased role. I think Iosivas will see the field, but I think when they get into crunch time and like okay, like we played him a few snaps, but we actually need to move the ball now. They're going to put Irwin in there because they trust him more, and Burrow trusts him a lot. And he showed he could be trusted on the outside in the regular season last year. He earned that spot. So I'm hoping Higgins plays, because even if he's not fully healthy, I feel like the defense will respect it more, and that might give you more room to work Tyler Boyd, more room to work Jamar Chase. Just the pool that he has on the defense. I don't think this hopefully doesn't get clipped. I'm not overly nervous about the Cardinals' defense. I think if the Bengals lose this game, they could certainly look bad on offense, but I think it'll be more related to they just can't figure anything out right now. But this is, I don't want to say that.
I know it's tricky.
Yeah, but you look at who they've played, the Browns and the Titans, like really defensive lines too. Aaron Donald with the Rams, the Ravens, they've got a good defense. So I look at all those, and those are great defenses, or at least good defensive lines. And I don't feel that way about this Cardinals team, especially, I believe, they lost Zach Allen. So they have like Dennis Gardeck and some guys like that. But we were talking about this Cardinals defense like it was one of the worst in the league, at least on paper, going into the season. So I was going to look up real quick because I watched the offense. I did not watch their defense. Right now, it looks like in general, they are the 10th best team by total team DVOA, which takes into account your opponent and how you're doing with advanced stats, everything like that. But the defense is ranked. Okay, I have to scroll a bit. Oh my goodness. Okay, they're the 30th defense by DVOA. Yeah, so I'm not overly concerned about it. Like, this is gonna be the first time I think they face a relatively easy defense, because if I'm trying to find the next closest,
do you think?
Sorry.
No, you're fine. 12. So overall, when you think of this matchup, and I agree with you, maybe Tee Higgins gives it a go. He was on the rehab field today. Maybe he's limited tomorrow, or he doesn't practice and he still goes. I could see that being a possibility, because this is a must-win game for this team, and I think everybody in the locker room knows it. You can listen to Jamar Chase in the post game, or in his not press conference, but in the locker room today, and just other players in there knowing what this means, the adversity that they've faced all season long. Jamar Chase hasn't seen the end zone yet, which is absolutely wild out of 4 games. This is huge for this offense to finally get the ball rolling. Do you think this is a game where Zach Taylor says, you know what, we're going to run the ball?
Maybe. I think that's what I would do. If it's any consolation, I don't know. Like, I just haven't, it feels like not that the play calls, when you look at them in a minute way, like, the play call is specifically, like, they're not calling specific plays that are exactly like how Joe Burrow normally plays. But it feels to me, and I could be wrong, but it feels a little bit to me like this team is calling run pass based off of who Joe Burrow is. It's a lot of passes right now. I don't think they trust a guy behind Joe Mixon. And how many carries can you give Joe Mixon? Because you're going to get 60 plays on offense. I don't see Mixon getting over 20 carries. So, and that's high. That's more than he's had in any game this year. So who gets more carries if you're going to try to get to a 50-50 split? Can you find 10 carries between the other backs? No. You might be saying, yeah, in the car or wherever you're listening, but would it shock you to know, if you listened to the last episode, that the other running backs have combined for 7 carries on the year? Because that's what we're dealing with. Like, we need to find somebody that can take 7, or combine all of them to take 7 carries in a game. And even then, you still might not hit a 50-50 split, but at least it's close. So I think there's a few reasons that I think they're going to lean more pass heavy than we expect. I do hope it is more run heavy than it has been the past few weeks, though.
I think Zach Taylor, this is when it's week 5. It's a Zach Taylor special. That's when he usually changes it up a little bit with the offense. And I know we're dealing with a totally different situation than we were this time last year, but it's time. It's time. They're not going to put a whole new offense in. I know a lot of Bengals fans want them to do that. They're not going to do that, but they're probably going to change a few things up because they have to be better. You can't have a game where you're only putting up 3 points 2 times this year. That is not good. So we'll see on the offensive side what that looks like if Tee Higgins doesn't go. I'll flip to the defensive side. As I mentioned before, Cam Taylor-Britt was limited today. He's still in concussion protocol. To be determined if he plays on Sunday. If he doesn't, DJ Turner is going to get the call. How do you feel about DJ Turner at corner?
Good. I think in his limited snaps, he's looked solid. So I'm into him getting some more snaps in this game. Would love if Cam Taylor-Britt can play. Want him to be healthy. If he can't go, this is one of the few spots on this team that I think that their contingency plan is very good. Like I think DJ Turner is a great fourth corner, and I would trust him if he was out there.
Brett Nolan. I'm probably butchering his last name, but he's somebody who I like to talk with. Coleman. Sorry, Brett. A friend of the show. But I usually just chat with him before the season and talk a little football because he does great breakdowns on YouTube. There was a rumor right before the first round of the draft that the Bengals were going to get DJ Turner in the first round. So I DM'd him. I said, what do you think about DJ Turner? Would he be a good fit in Cincinnati? He's like, I absolutely love that for the Bengals defense. I love DJ Turner. If they end up getting DJ Turner, that's a great move for them. Little did we know they were going to get DJ Turner in the second round. So felt like that was a good move for them. And I agree with you. It almost kind of gives me the Kansas City Chiefs vibes of what their secondary looked like, those young rookie secondary players that had to step up and play. That if DJ Turner is out there, he says, hey, look, I can step up if I need to, if Cam Taylor-Britt can't go. And Cam Taylor-Britt has been, what would you say how Cam Taylor-Britt's season vibe has gone so far?
Adequate.
Okay.
I don't think it's terrible, but there was the hype in preseason. It's like, ooh, he's giving Jamar Chase a tough time. Well, that hasn't happened, but I don't think it's been terrible. Like, it's fine. I comped him to Trey Waynes coming out, and I know some Bengals fans only see red when they hear that name, but he was actually a solid corner in Minnesota. And that is kind of what I feel like Cam Taylor-Britt will be because there's limitations with him right now. I think he's stiff, and I don't think he has the best ball skills. But I think he's a great run defender, and I think he's physical. And other than the issues, like when he's a good straight line athlete. I think he's smart. So there's a lot to like. It's just he's kind of limited on being like that dude at corner. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he does become that dude at corner. But DJ Turner, I feel like, is actually high potential. It was hard to find a comparison for him, though, because he's an outside-only corner, but he's small, but extremely fast. And it's funny, one of the main comparisons you could probably make would be Jonathan Joseph, because Joseph was small. Joseph was a superb athlete. And he was an outside-only guy. Like, some people saw the size of Turner and they thought, like, oh, that guy's a slot. Because I think he's 5'11", under 6 feet. Like, 6 feet's the bar for some people. But I don't think so at all. And the Bengals, since day one, have said, like, this guy's an outside corner. Like, he could play the slot if we need him to, but we drafted him to play on the outside, which is the more premium position. It's harder to find those guys. So I'm into it. I'm into seeing more DJ Turner. I thought he was good last week.
Yeah, so to be determined, like I said before, we'll see if Cam Taylor-Britt can get out of concussion protocol. Obviously, optimistic news with him being limited. When you think about this Cardinals offense, credit to Josh Dobbs. Just been really impressed with what he's been able to do. I'll be completely honest with you. When they ended up getting him from the Cleveland, or he was in Cleveland before, right?
Sure was.
Was with Cleveland, and
he's
been everything.
He was drafted by the Steelers, cut for Mason Rudolph, which. Back on that. And then went to the Browns, was on their practice squad, got cut from there, signed by the Titans. He actually played in the Titans' last regular season game, that close one that they lost to Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. Cut again, signed back to the Browns practice squad because he was familiar there, I think. And then the Cardinals traded for him. And I didn't realize this, I think mainly because the Cardinals offensive coordinator was the Browns quarterback coach last year. So there's some familiarity between those two. And I think that's also why it's been a bit of a seamless fit. Yes, he had a NASA internship. He is a rocket scientist. I call him the Pastronaut.
You know what? I bet you $10 we will hear about that on the broadcast on Sunday.
Yeah, you
He
will.
had the internship. You know it's going to come.
He has a good shot at being the next Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like, he's even got the stat that everybody's gonna, or the fact that everybody's gonna bring up. Like, if he could be that guy that's just, gets a few journeyman jobs. Everybody's gonna go. He has a NASA intern. He could be a rocket scientist the same way they always went. Ryan Fitzpatrick went to Harvard.
I mean, backup quarterback is a great, well, he's not even backup quarterback right now, but he was a backup quarterback, and that is the best job you can get in the NFL. Now he's a starter. So I'll say I was impressed with what they have been able to get out of Josh Kyler Murray to be determined when he returns this season. I thought for sure Arizona, they're not technically tanking, but I thought they're throwing this season away. They're trying to get one of the rookie quarterbacks in next year's draft class, and surprisingly, he has looked okay. I know they only have one win, so do the Cincinnati Bengals, but they've also been able to run the ball, and the Bengals defense can stop the run. So what do you think about that matchup? That's where I get a little nervous. That's why I want Cincinnati to control it on offense and to be able to run the ball, and you keep that offense on the sideline.
That is the biggest matchup to me, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the Cardinals have a top 5 run offense. I think I would say so. If it's not 5, it's 6, because they're 6 in some stats. Like, who cares about the definition here? They are basically a top 5 run offense, and it's a very good run offense. And it's led to them. They are currently in DVOA, which I referenced for their defense being 30th. They're the 6th best offense in DVOA. That's incredible. Insane. Yeah. It's a really good offense. Like, it's well constructed. I like it. I understand it. The offensive line has its issues, but it feels like they do a good job protecting them. This is scary. Feels a little bit Brownsy. Like, that's how it feels. Like, the quarterback, he doesn't have too much to do. It kind of feels like the Browns last year with Brissett, except Dobbs can move better. He's a little less accurate. Mm-hmm. So you get some of that. And Brissett's, he's been around a while. So I think Brissett, you could trust to process the field a tiny bit better. But I think that it's kind of Browns offense-ish, because they do so much run game stuff. They do everything in the run game. They go under center. They do it from the shotgun. They do whatever they want. They do quarterback run stuff. They do all the Ravens run stuff, basically. Not some of the motion stuff, but some of the same concepts. They do those. And it's a really good run offense. And James Conner is still a really good back. Mm-hmm. He's good for the Steelers, and he's been good for the Cardinals. I think people kind of forgot about him because he went to the Cardinals and nobody's really paid attention to them. So when I put their film on, they were doing a good job against San Francisco for the most part, and they did a really good job against Dallas. And I think both those defenses are incredible. Those are two of the best defenses in the league. So I don't want to take the Cardinals offense lightly. I think if the Bengals are going to win this game, I think this is a close, in my mind, this is a close game, especially because it's in Arizona. I think the Bengals can't allow the Cardinals to, I'm not going to say take an early lead, because I think no matter what, unless you're down 4 scores or something, you're going to run your offense and play normal in the first half. But you can't be down 2 scores in the second half and let them just run. No. Because they do a lot of play action stuff that's good. They actually bring back, this is a nerdy thing, but just for the people who do care, they have brought back waggle protection, which is an old school thing that, and I didn't go to school that long ago, like 10 years ago, so I played high school football, but we ran that in high school. I got excited because what it is waggle protection it's a play action play, and then you roll the quarterback out and you pull the guard with the quarterback. And I was the guard that used to pull in front of the quarterback, and those were because I was the most athletic offensive lineman, because I was only 180 pounds on the offensive line. It was a tough life, but it was kind of cool to see that. I was like, oh man, they're just doing everything. They're bringing back, because in the NFL, I don't think waggle's been popular since maybe the 90s, 80s. Like, people got away from it because I think defenses keyed those guards so much. They're like, well, that just takes you right to the quarterback. But for whatever reason, I think it's also because they have run plays where the guards go away from the running back. So I think they brought it back, and it's working for them. Their offense is fun. I think if you are just like a film junkie in any way, just go watch the Cardinals offense, because it's fun.
I hope it isn't fun on Sunday, but we will get to our prediction later. I want to get to a few of the social media questions. Thank you so much for sending those over. Reminder, you can follow Mike Bengals_Sands. You can follow me at LNDS Patterson. This has been the question, honestly, for a while. Will Zach Taylor give up his play calling?
No, I don't think he will. Not unless they force him. And he was in a similar spot last year, and he didn't give it up. He stuck with it, and it worked out. I think a lot of people don't like that he calls the plays. And in general, I think he's at least fine. I thought last year he was pretty good at calling plays, especially that stretch where Jamar Chase was out. I think he was a really good play caller. So it's there, even if you don't like it this year. I think it's reaching a little bit to say he's one of the worst play callers in the league. Personal opinion, though.
Yeah, and everybody, when your team is losing, your offense can't get anything going, and you have a quarterback with a calf injury, you're not going to like your play caller. And the play caller is connected to the head coach. And look, I will say one thing about Zach Taylor. He is an amazing head coach. Just listening to Jamar Chase today when Zach called him into his office on Monday, thought he was in trouble for what he said after the Titans game. And Zach's like, no, it was a great interview. You showed so much leadership. And Jamar was like, shoo, wiping that sweat off my face. I'm glad coach had my back on that. But overall, I hope Zach can get it together. And the thing is, I know a lot of people, they're calling for Zach Taylor's job. They're calling for him to give up the play calling.
If Marvin Lewis got 25 years for making the wild card game sometimes, they are not firing Zach Taylor 2 years after a Super Bowl.
Well, there's a couple things here why they're not going to do that. I know.
I think that's just the general one that I think you guys can kind of drop it.
100%. But there's a couple things here. Look, Zach Taylor does have to be better. You have to protect your quarterback.
I agree.
He isn't fully healthy right now. You have to protect your quarterback. He isn't doing a good enough job. He's not doing a good job right now. And I know that gives you limitations because you have this offense planned all training camp and your quarterback isn't out there. Then you have to start the season and it's a whole different offense that you're throwing out there that you just spent your whole training camp trying to get. And now it just feels like they're taking all these steps back with their offense. And you can't, like I said before, you can't just throw out a brand new offense out there. He's not running the ball. Probably should start running the ball more. But yeah, he has to be a better head coach or be a better play caller.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. I don't like the play calls so far, like especially the last 2 weeks, especially last week mainly. 2 weeks ago, whatever, that was Burrow's lowest point. Last week didn't really like the play calling. Had issues in general, but I think some people take it too far though, and I do think in general I would think he's a pretty good play caller. I don't think he's with like Mike McDaniel or something or Kyle Shanahan, but I think he's a pretty good play caller.
And Joe Burrow really likes Zach Taylor. So as long as your quarterback has that connection and speaks the way he does, even Joe does it after some of these losses, that means your head coach is going to be here. And I'm fine with that. You just got to do a better job, Zach. And I hope you do, so people will stop calling for your job. Put the percentage on Joe Burrow coaching, O-line, and player performance.
Oh, God. I think it's mostly Burrow. Like, what it comes down to is just the quarterback isn't himself. So I don't know if I'm going to do a percentage. But I'll rank them. Just because I feel like percentage is just weird. Like, yeah, Burrow is probably mostly Burrow, but then how much percent is that? I don't know. So I'll go Burrow is 1. I think player performance is 2. But that also leads into the offensive line. Like, those are just intertwined to me. Yeah. In my mind, players are more important than the coaching, especially at the NFL level. It's just, like, I don't think they're in spots that are impossible. I think if Burrow was healthy, this team would be fine. But Burrow's not healthy. That's why he's my number 1. I about the other ones. I don't know. Do you have any real thoughts on this?
I will say, do you have any real thoughts on this? I will say with Joe Burrow, I think he proved to a lot of people that it isn't because of his wide receivers why he's been a top quarterback. This team functions on Joe Burrow's play. Joe Burrow hasn't been able to be mobile. He's been pretty much a statue, and he hasn't been on. He's an accurate quarterback. He's not this year, and he needs to be better too when he's out there. I know he's dealing with a calf injury, but I would say right now this team functions when Joe Burrow functions, and he isn't functioning to the old Joe Burrow right now. So I'd put Joe 1, and I would put a big percentage of it's his calf, but he's still doing things that you would think wouldn't be calf related, and they've been off. So we'll say that, and then I guess you can just connect the two. I agree with you when it comes to player performance. Lou isn't out there on the defensive side missing 12 tackles. That's a defensive problem. And Mike Hilton's been down this year, which has been really disappointing. And there are a lot of guys who you would think could step up, at least get pressure onto the quarterback. And I know a lot of people want to point to the secondary. They want to look at guys like Nick Scott, but just overall on the defensive side, you got to do better. And offensive line,
my bigger issue has been the front. The defensive front's been a bigger disappointment than the secondary for me. And that obviously shows because they're a terrible run defense and they're an adequate pass defense.
Yep. And then there's a lot of money going to your defensive line and a lot of guys that need to step up. So it's been disappointing, but I would agree with you. Look, we've already said it. Zach needs to do better when it comes to play calling. Lou, hopefully this is a revenge game for him. Arizona didn't take you as their head coach. Your defense is prepared to hopefully stop a pretty talented offense in the Cardinals. So we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, I would agree with you. I would just say Joe Burrow is one right now. And it's just unfortunate because when Joe is out there being Joe from 2021, Joe from 2022, this team is fun to watch and unstoppable, and they just can't really get it going. And hopefully we watch them on Sunday and it's a big bounce back game for this offense and they can look a little normal to what we saw the past 2 years. One more Twitter question before we give some predictions. What is more likely, Joe to return to normal or more struggles in 2023?
Eventually I think he'll return to normal. Yeah. This season, I think he'll return to normal at some point. It's going to be prolonged, though, because he keeps playing through the injury. So maybe after the bye week, it'll feel normal. I think that's what the team's hoping for. They're just kind of trying to piece together these next 2 weeks, get the bye week, and then hopefully it's normal after that.
Yeah, I agree. As long as Joe doesn't have any more setbacks, and when he said he was the most optimistic he has been after a game, after the Titans game, obviously not the outcome, but just how he's feeling with his health in the calf and no treatment this week, that's encouraging. As long as there's no setbacks, I truly believe we will see the normal Joe Burrow in 2023. This bye week, I remember looking at the schedule when it came out and said, man, that bye week is a little early for me. I would have liked it kind of maybe a couple more games back. And right now it feels like it could be falling at the perfect time if they're able to at least take one of the next 2 games. And then you get that extra week for Joe to get healthy before it gets into the tough stretch of the NFL season, even though they are 1-3 right now. And I'm saying tough because this is unfortunately how the start of the season went for them. You would have thought they would have been able to at least get 2 or 3, but unfortunately that's where they're at right now.
Yeah. Not great.
Right. Not great. All right. Let's go ahead and give predictions on what's going to happen. What do you think?
You go first. I went first.
Oh my goodness. I've been debating this one. I've been thinking.
Me too. Yeah.
The only time I picked the Bengals to lose this season, they won the game.
Same. We're both 0-4.
And no game is easy because I thought they could go into the Tennessee Titans game and make it work. That first drive, I thought they could make it work. The Ravens game, I was up in the air. The Browns, it's just what it is with the Browns. They have their number right now. It's just a bad mismatch for them. And unfortunately, Joe wasn't healthy.
The rain, too. Big factor.
The rain. They are playing this one on the road. I hate being like this. Not that the energy and everything felt different at practice this week because none of it matters until you see them on the field. But I feel like the intensity is there. I think a lot of people realize how extremely important this week is for them. And then you back up a little bit. It's no longer, can you win the AFC North? Will you make the playoffs? It is, what can you do 1 week at a time with this team? And they have a lot to figure out because unfortunately it's on both sides of the ball right now. And that's what's a little terrifying for the high expectations we had going in the season. We can say all we want about Joe Burrow's calf. Maybe Tee Higgins plays, maybe he doesn't. Defensively, they've been disappointing. I'm going to say right now, I don't know if the offense gets it figured out. I think it's going to be a close game. I do think it's going to be the under 44.5. And I'm just going to say Bengals 20, Cards 17.
Okay. Yeah, I've gone back and forth a lot too. It's just on paper, the Bengals should win this game. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of other factors that go into it, not, solely they're on the road. on a long road trip to Arizona. Also, the quarterback's hurt. Also, their second best wide receiver, maybe third, fourth best player overall is hurt. So they have some issues going into this game. And Josh Dobbs has played better than expected. This Cardinals offense has been much better than expected. I would stay away from the over-under because I actually think this could be the week the Bengals offense wakes up a little bit. And part of the reason is, yes, they've looked terrible, but I feel like they've faced a lot of good defenses. I was actually wrong. I said the 12th best was the lowest they faced was 24th. So this is still the worst by DVOA defense that they will face. And that 24th was the Rams, which was probably one of the only situations that sometimes they move the ball, but that was Joe Burrow at his worst. I think they'll move the ball. I think this offense will look okay. I don't think it'll look great, but I think it'll look okay. Like I could see them scoring 24, something like that.
That's where we're at right now. Can the Bengals score 24?
Yeah. I'm not saying they're about to go 35 or something. I'm saying I think we could see 24, maybe even 27. I
know.
It feels so tough. 0-4. Just don't have to think about that. In my heart, I agree with you. I think the Bengals win. My head feels cloudy because this does feel like the perfect storm for even if the Bengals offense looks better, they still end up losing because the Cardinals, despite what you might think on paper, it's a very good run offense. And this Bengals defense has been very bad defending the run. But I'll go with my heart. 27-24 Bengals. I thought about going the other way. I was like, hey, one of us will be 1-5 or 1-4.
Well,
I'm going to go Bengals. I just, I don't feel good about it. Like, at no point, man, I circled this as probably the easiest win on the schedule going into the year, and it does not feel that way right now. If this team is going to stay alive in the playoffs, they have to win this game. And I don't think that means that they'll win it, but it just, they lose this one, then they have to play Seattle. I know it's at home, but that's probably a better team. I saw them sack Daniel Jones 11 times.
I would say a better team. I mean, obviously, we know the offensive line that the Giants have. I'm not saying the Bengals have a all-pro offensive line because they're still seeing struggles on it. But I would almost say I feel more confident next week at home than I do in this Arizona Cardinals game. I'm picking them. I agree. It's more of what I'm going with in my heart. But I just feel like I feel like this is a big game for him. They kind of did him dirty in Arizona. And,
this is a Lou revenge game.
It's a Lou revenge game.
Although I will say, Jonathan Gannon probably also looks better than people. Everybody was clowning that hire. And this team looks competitive, which I don't think every coach would have done.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. He's done a really good job there. But yeah, season has to get back on. It doesn't feel like it is right now. There's a lot of holes. You want Joe Burrow to be better. You want the offense to be better, play calling to be better. There's a lot they have to figure out in Arizona, and maybe they figure it out in the desert. But that's where I'm at. We're picking a dub.
We sure are. So hopefully that our luck turns around. This is our fourth time picking the dub.
Last year, I used to pick them in every single week. I was doing great. I had a great record. They only had 4 losses, except for the AFC Championship game. So I was feeling that one. But this year, it's been a little up and down. It would just be so refreshing if they could figure the offense out. It could be. I don't know. What do you think?
How glad are you that we are not currently doing the All Bengals season predictions and having 0-4 next to our names when we go do that, and then you'll get replies that are like, "These idiots."
Yeah, what do they know? What are they predicting? Yeah, no, I'm great. I'm grateful we don't have to do that. But yeah, I mean, again, you can win ugly in the NFL. It doesn't matter. It all counts the same at the end. But man, it would just be so refreshing to see this offense finally get it going, because it was the expectations. There were plenty of people that picked this team to win a Super Bowl, you included.
That's right. And I also picked Josh Allen MVP. That one's looking better. Dude, your Joe Burrow MVP stocks might be already dead.
Bills are looking really good after that week 1 game. They are looking like the best team in the AFC, and the Dolphins aren't too far behind them. But the Bills have their number right now. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. We're both picking the Bengals. You have a really great piece on all Bengals. I know we talked about it earlier in the week. Go ahead and share if anybody missed that.
Yep, just going under the hood on this offense and what they could do, what I think they could do to try to fix it a little bit. That's about it. Just check that out, all Bengals. Check me out at Bengals_Sands. Check out Lindsay at LNDS Patterson. And
that's it. That's a wrap on our podcast. We'll be back after the game, a later one, because they are playing on West Coast time. Thank you, as always, for listening to It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati.